Guys, today I want to share my experience in one of the company situated in Delhi, and the interview was based on the PHP, MySQL, and some question from JavaScript. So uh, the interview I gave on 3rd May 2023. So I want to share these questions. So the first, these question may be randomized, and okay, so they asked me the why do we use PHP? So I told them PHP can actually do anything related to server-side scripting, or more popularly known as the backend of a website. For example, PHP can retrieve data from forms, generate dynamic pages, content, can work with databases, create session, send or receive cookies, email, etc. And another question they asked me JavaScript library. So I told them the jQuery is a JavaScript library. So they asked me what are the main JavaScript libraries. So I told them jQuery is probably the most popular JavaScript library out there, which provides so many features for modern day development. We can use jQuery API for event handling, animation, manipulation of HTML documents, also known as DOM. Besides this, jQuery is being used with the Angular and React app building tools too. They asked me what are the CSS libraries. So, so I told them CSS library web development a basic structure which includes grids, interactive UI pattern, web topography, tooltips, buttons, form elements, icon, etc. Then they asked me PHP global variable, that is super global. So I told them some predefined variable in PHP are super global, which means they can always accessible regardless of the scope, and we can access them from any function class file without having to do anything special. So then they asked me, can you tell me some super global variable in PHP? Then I told them dollar global, dollar underscore server, dollar underscore request, dollar underscore post, get, files, env, cookies, session. Then they immediately asked me dollar underscore server, what this super global variable do. So I told them dollar underscore server is a PHP super global variable which hold information about headers, paths, and script location. So for example, I told them like the echo function is there, echo dollar underscore server, and inside the bracket PHP underscore self, and server underscore name, http underscore host, http underscore referrer, http underscore user underscore agent, and a script underscore name. They asked me what are the session and cookies. So I told them session and cookies, these are also super global, while session get stored in the client side and server get in the server side. Then they asked me where our session is stored. So I told them the location of the underscore session variable storage is determined by the PHP session.save underscore path configuration. Usually this is underscore temp on a Linux system or Unix system. Use the PHP underscore PHP info function to view your particular setting if not 100% sure by retrieving a file with this content in the document root of your domain. Then they asked me what is the mail function or what are the parameters inside the mail function. So I told them mail, and inside the bracket we have the email address, subject, and message body. Then they asked me what is .htaccess in LAMP. So I said htaccess file is created in order to enable extra feature for that subdirectory. You can use the .access file to modify various configuration and thus make changes to your website. These changes include authorization, error handling, redirects for specific URLs, user permission, etc. Then they asked me API. So I told them an application programming interface, that is API, define the classes, method, function and variable that your application will need to call in order to carry out its desired task. In the case of PHP application that need to communicate with database, the necessary APIs are usually exposed via the PHP extension. Then they asked me a question from SQL, that what is the views? So I told them in SQL a view is a virtual table based on the result set of an SQL statement. A view contains rows and columns just like real table. The field in a view are filled from one or more real table in the database. Then they asked me data type in MySQL. So I told them in MySQL there are main data types like the string, numeric, date and time. Then question they asked me what is the store procedure and what is the trigger. So I told them a trigger is a code associated with insert, update and delete operation. So I used to remember it like the IUD, that is a insert, update, delete operation for trigger. Okay, a trigger is a stored procedure in database which automatically invoke whenever a special event in the database occur. Like in the field, in the case of the insert, update or delete, the trigger will immediately invoke. For example, a trigger can be invoked when a row is inserted into a specific table or when certain table columns are being updated. Then they ask me the when we use trigger. A trigger is code associated with insert, delete operation, which I have already told you. Then trigger, so this is the trigger. Okay. Now they asked me what is the string function in MySQL. So I told them MySQL string function is like the ASCII, that is return the ASCII value for specific characters, char underscore length, which will return the length of the string, character underscore length, concat, add two or more expression together, and also if I can share like the insert a string within a string at a specific position. Also I can tell there are many type of the string function in MySQL, like the trim, remove the leading or trailing space from a string, or we can say the replace function and space function, uppercase, lowercase. Okay. Now they asked me object in MySQL. So I told them certain object within the MySQL, including database table, index, column, alias, view, store procedure, partition, table space, resource group and other object name are known as the identifier. This section describes the permissibly index of identifier in MySQL. So generally this was the identifier they asked me. Okay. Also they asked me what are the subqueries. So I told what is the, okay, so I told them a subquery is a select statement within another statement. All, all subquery form an operation that the SQL standard require are supported, as well as the few features that are MySQL specific. So now they asked me a question from the Apache. So they asked me the can we work without Apache in PHP? So I told them we can work a PHP script to run it without any server or browser. You only need to PHP parser to use it is this way. This type of usage is ideal for script regularly executed using the cron or task scheduler in Windows, cron in Linux or task scheduler in Windows. These scripts can also be used for simple text processing tasks. So these are the few questions which that company asked me, and the interview date was the 3rd May 2023. So I will share more videos regarding the interview question. Till then, bye.